right, this is part 3 of my conversation with Erica Beine on my genetic testing results. If you missed the first 2 parts, you definitely want to go back and check those out, because just like any Emmy-winning TV show of greatness, it builds on itself, and you got to have context. So you definitely want to check out those first 2 parts, then come back to this one. Even though this is the third and final part, there will be another one coming in a couple weeks where I sit down with Erica again and kind of recap, synthesize, lay out a plan. She lays out a plan for me going forward, even though I've already started implementing a lot of what we have already talked about. So if you're like really geeked out on this stuff and you just want more, stay tuned. There's more coming. But in the meantime, here we go, part 3. I'd be curious about recovery.
Yep. So that is the next one on the page anyway. Actually it's injury next, but we can go down to recovery. They kind of tie together a little bit. So let's talk recovery, and then
Which page?
13. Well, actually it's 15 on the PDF, but 13 on the actual like paper. It shows page 13.
Yeah. Okay.
See that one?
Yep.
Okay. So with recovery, the one above it is injury. They kind of tie together because you have a moderate risk of injury. That means you're more susceptible to tear, pull, and strain your tendons, muscles, and ligaments. So that's why we also don't want to beat your body up out of the water too much that it doesnst allow you to train like you should in the water.
There was this one time, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
There was this one time I came home from prelims, laid down, it was like 3 years ago, and I laid down to take a nap. I kid you not, all I did was sit up and put my feet on the ground. I didn't even stand up. And a sharp pain just went shooting through my ankle. And it was bad. It was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can swim finals tonight, kind of bad. And with a whole bunch of icing and ibuprofen, like it got to the point where I was good to swim in finals. But all I did was sit up, and I was like, shit, I'm getting old.
Yeah, well, we get old. That happens. Things hurt more, things get injured more. And that's why we really want to recover your body the right way, to be preventative on that injury susceptibility instead of reactive. So a lot of times I tell people, I coached a lot of women throughout the years that left practice with ice bags on their shoulders. They didn't have shoulder problems. They were being preventative. Okay.
Yeah.
So you got to be ahead of it instead of behind it when it comes to things hurting, to recovering your muscles. So when we talk recovery, with being a medium recover, one thing happens is you will dehydrate much more quicker than other people will. Okay, so your intake of liquid, non-caffeinated fluid has to be really good for you to stay hydrated. So
now that's throughout the day?
Yep, throughout the day you need that. So here's kind of the goal when it comes to hydration. As a medium recover, if you take your body weight in pounds, which you said, what, 220? Is that about what you weigh?
Right.
220, divide it in half, 110. Easy number to divide in half. 110 is your bare minimum number of liquid ounces your body needs to stay adequately hydrated for your body functions to operate. Okay. That's not like to go train or do anything. That's just so your organs and everything are working the right way. As an athlete,
so 120 ounces.
110.
Sorry, 110.
Yeah, 110. Yep, half your body weight in ounces is the bare minimum. Always, doesn't matter if you're an athlete or not an athlete. That's the.
And what is that rough, like, equate that for me? Is it 2 gallons of water? Is it?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but we get to add more to that because one, you're an athlete. So I tell athletes you add another 20 ounces to that. So now we're at 130. And then if you are a medium recoverer, you get to add another 10 to 15 ounces to that. Let me just convert it right now. So what does that give us? That gives us 145, 150, or 140?
Yeah, 145.
145 is 1.1 gallons of liquid. Yeah, that's a lot. That and also helps you flush toxins out of your body at the most ideal way, because you don't flush toxins very well. So it does help with some of that. It helps everything function well and to be adequately hydrated to make sure things are functioning the right way. So slow recoverers even have it worse. So hydration, super important. You live in hot weather too. So super important to stay stay hydrated.
Now, do the hydration, I've heard from some athletes that they drink, not just athletes, but studies, on athletes, that you should even go above and beyond this, in my case, 145, like the day before a competition.
So pre-hydration. So it's hard to drink more than a gallon, honestly, of water every single day, right? Like that's hard enough. But if you pre-hydrate with electrolytes, so there's definitely some programs I work with women on, and menstrual cycle control and symptom reduction, and part of that is extra electrolytes. It's like pre-hydration. That's all it is. It's you're pre-hydrating a day or two or three before the meet to make sure your body isn't going into the meet already dehydrated. Right. That's all. You don't necessarily have to drink more. If you drink more, that's great if you can tolerate it. But there also becomes a point where you're drinking so much you're not absorbing it. And that's where the sodium and potassium become handy to help you absorb and hold on to that water and liquid hydration. Right. Yeah. Super helpful. Good question. The other part on recovery is your body's ability to flush lactic acid. So as a medium recover, you produce lactic acid just like everybody else in the world when you race, and that's what you feel at the end of your race, right? Right. Yep. So when you are a medium recover, unfortunately, your body doesn't flush lactic acid out of the muscles the way it ideally could, which you probably already know by this point.
That I know.
Yeah, that we know. So what I tell people when it comes to cool down from a race is that, or anything intense workout wise, you need to force your body to flush. Okay. And so maybe you do this, maybe you don't, but I tell athletes, here's a template. Go to the cool down pool after your race with your hydration or water and swim 100 or 200 easy, just float, double arm backstroke, whatever. Doesn't matter. Swim a little bit. Okay. And then you have to put yourself through a flush set. Some athletes, some of the Olympians I worked with from Tokyo, they already did this before we even talked. Or some coaches, like, the kids that swim at Florida, they had to do this under Greg Troy, like tons and tons of this stuff. So you go through a pink pace set, which when you take your heart rate, pink pace is 25 to 27 beats approximately. It might be a little less on you. 150, 160-ish heart rate, potentially a little lower as you get a little older, like us. We got a little older, unfortunately. So you need about 3 to 5 minutes worth of pink pace work to help flush lactic acid out of your body. So I tell people, come up with a set that you're always going to do. It can be 50s, 25s, whatever, 200s, whatever you want to do. So if you want to do 650s on 50, and that keeps your heart rate right where it needs to be, awesome. If you want to do 450s on a minute and that keeps your heart rate where it needs to be, and it could be any stroke, doesn't matter. Awesome. And then keep swimming all the way up to an 800 or 1,000 easy total of yards. Okay. And that's the ideal place to flush lactic acid. And I would say amongst the clients that we work with, that is one of the things when people are really bad at cool down or just don't know what they're supposed to do, right? They just, a lot of kids don't know. They're like, go swim easy. They don't know. When they start implementing that, they do find the recovery from first race to last race or between prelims and finals is much better because they're getting the lactic acid out properly. Right. So that's important.
Okay.
So flush set. And then last piece, which we'll dive into our next call, but is how soon you get food into your body after practice and what types of foods we get in the body. So the whole next part we'll talk about is food. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty good about getting food back in my body. Typically whether it's practice or race, the first thing I put back in is whey protein and creatine with milk.
Yep.
I kind of let that digest for just a little bit, not too long, because maybe this is wrong, but I feel like I shouldn't be chugging, 40 grams of protein and then hitting another however many grams of protein I eat in salmon and chicken and all that. Just kind of stretching it out a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's ideal. We talk about his 30-minute magic window. So within 30 minutes, about equal amounts of carbs and proteins.
Yeah.
Protein to repair the muscle damage. If you put creatine in there too, that's fine. But carbs, where a lot of people forget or neglect, is that carb portion, because
Right.
carbs help put glycogen back into the muscles, and you don't get a big window to do that. So something that is carb based is super helpful. And if the protein shake you do isn't really high in carb, it doesn't have many, which is very common, then eating a banana with it on the side, or an apple, or some kind of piece of fruit that has a decent amount of carb in it will help provide that carb piece too. But then, in an hour to an hour and a half, you can even go as long as 2 hours to get a meal in. That's fantastic.
Okay.
Too much protein at once, your body can't even process. Just can't do it. So
okay, that's what I thought.
You're going to have to add glutamine into it, and then, it's just, not worth it. Break it up.
Yeah.
Now,
here's an interesting topic, at least for me, but I think a lot of swimmers too. Whether it's an adult, a master swimmer, who just has life and work going on, or a kid who's an age group swimmer and has that practice that ends at 7 or 8 o'clock. And
so hard.
What are there any rules to follow about what to eat and how much to eat so close to bedtime? Because in my specific situation right now, today I had a late workout, and I finished my workout at I don't know, 4 o'clock or whatever. And I came home and I was able to get some food in my stomach, but I had a work call before this call, and then I had this call. And so I really haven't eaten a full meal yet. And it is now 8:30.
Right.
So when I hang up with you, do I go pound the amount of food I was going to eat and make up for lost time? Or do I say, well, I'll just do it tomorrow?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's situations like some teams I've worked with, like remember one in Iowa specifically, like they had practice till like 8:30 or 9 p.m. It was so late, and you can't really do anything about that. The importance is the calorie consumption. So most people, it takes them from the minute you get out of the water to the time you get home and are actually going to eat your meal, even if it's cooked and ready to go. It's going to be at least a 20-minute window. By the time you get dressed, maybe shower, drive home, park the car, get out, go sit down and eat some food, right? 20 minutes at best. So small snacks start the food consumption, right? Something that's got carbs and protein. As you probably are already changing in the locker room, start that consumption, and then go home and eat your meal. I mean, there's just nothing you can do about it. In an ideal world, we'd be done practicing by 4 o'clock. We'd have our 30-minute magic window food of 100 to 200 calories, probably more towards the 200, 250 calories, depending on the age of the athlete. And then, we get a good meal in around 5:30, and, we probably have a good high protein snack before we go to bed, and then we're good. But there's just not everybody's situation is that way. You just can't do anything about it. You have to get the calories in, or you're going to see deficiencies in training because of lack of calorie consumption. So it's important to get the calories. Now, what I will say is with your super high carb sensitivity, I'd be really careful eating so late at night with how many carbs you put in your body. That's got to be within the 30-minute window for sure. Last thing you want to do is go pound a ton of carbs and go to bed, because that's going to upset digestion. That's going to create inflammation if you're not going to go burn them off as fuel. And it's going to really make your sleep worse. You're going to see, if you were watching sleep scores like on a Whoop or something, you're probably going to see that go down.
Right.
Yeah. So you got to be careful with your high sensitivity to carbs.
Okay. So the pasta dinner I made for the family is not what I should continue to eat when I leave this call.
Well, if it's folic acid free pasta, that's like chickpea pasta that has 25 grams of protein in it. That's great. Oh, wow. Yeah. Chickpea pasta, black bean pasta is amazing. It has so much protein and fiber that it counterbalances that carb intake. So
I've always wondered about those, vegetable pastas and whatnot.
They're great. They're awesome. There's so many, it's like a super pasta. You get carbs, which are important for your body, but you're also getting a ton of protein.
I'll have to sell that to my family.
Uh, you
Hopefully
can
the
sell it.
taste isn't any different.
You might have to experiment with a couple different ones. My kids eat it. I mean, it's what we have.
Now, is there a rule of thumb for amount of carbs to consume in a day? Because I've heard like 4 times your body
Yeah.
weight, or amount of protein to consume in a day.
Mhm. Yeah, it's I don't really give people numbers because everyone's body and scenario is so different. So I don't really work on macros with people very much. I actually don't even enjoy doing it. So I don't like to do it. So I don't do it.
Okay.
But one of my rules is, depending on your carb sensitivity, especially if you have the high carb sensitivity like you, is that when we look at your dinner plate, we should have protein, we should have green stuff and vegetables or fruit, right? We should have plant-based stuff, and we should have carbs. Don't let your carb size get to be the American carb size. That's this much carbs and this much protein, because two things are going to happen. If you overeat carbs, you will always undereat protein. So it's okay if your carb size gets bigger than your protein size, but don't let it get significantly bigger. You have to eat enough protein to sustain your muscle mass.
Right.
And with, like, let's say chicken's your protein, you actually only absorb 65% of that protein anyway, right? You're not absorbing 100% of that protein like you will out of eggs or whey protein. Meat, you're only going to absorb 65% of it. So let's just say half, right? You have to eat a fair amount of chicken to get the appropriate amount of protein that you actually need for your body. So if you overeat carbs, you're not going to have enough room for protein. So that's really, really important. Okay. Plus, again, at dinner, we don't want to put too much carb in the body. That's overconsumption. Then go sit down and do our homework, work, watch TV, whatever that is. And we're not active and burning up that as
Right.
carbs. We want our carb refuel to come within 30 minutes and then plus more at dinner, but it shouldn't be humongous, right? It shouldn't be humongous amounts of carbs. So that's what I go on when it comes to fueling properly. It depends on people's goals too. If somebody tells me they're in a weight loss goal, we might talk about descending carbs through the day, right? When they're in a weight loss type of goal. But no, I don't really get into that. This is how many carbs you should eat. If your plate looks like that, that's good. Okay.
Okay.
You gotta eat carbs to fuel your body, right? Otherwise you're gonna crash. You're gonna crash.
True. So my last question for tonight, because I do have to go eat.
Yeah, you do need to go eat that bad pasta, James. So
I'm starting.
just giving you a hard time. Somebody's giving you a hard time.
I'm starting to crash because
yeah, that's it. Well, that's
I did not eat.
Carb deficiency.
So last question. I weigh 220 pounds, and you look at my race videos next to these kids who are in high school, and they probably weigh like 170,
50. Yeah,
something like that. And I'm like this battleship going down the pool, and they're like jet skis just taking off. I feel like, on the one hand, again, the two voices, I've had great success getting, hitting 220 pounds in yards. So, long course, I think, might be a different story. However, I feel like I'm too heavy now at 220, and long course was like just the slap in the face that maybe I needed to make me question, okay, well, if I'm too heavy, not overweight, but if I'm too heavy, then do I either need to maintain a lower body weight? So I don't know, 210, 205, or, and I've heard Adam Peaty does this, but I can't verify that I train at 220, and then in the lead up during taper, I drop like 15, 20 pounds.
Yeah,
and
that's tough. That's tough. Yeah.
I mean, would I be able to maintain my strength losing that weight and be able, the whole idea of I'm still just as strong, but I'm pulling less weight, so it's easier and I'm faster.
Right. Yeah, I get the total concept. It's very, I mean, you have to basically monitor your body fat percentage with your lean muscle mass percentage like so closely, like
Right.
almost daily. And I mean, I don't know how else you would do that. I feel like you'd be doing DEXA scans every single day to watch that because it's easy just to lose the muscle mass, right?
Okay.
It's super easy just to lose the muscle mass. So I mean, with weight, I don't think with weight it's necessarily a number is a number and everyone has an ideal number. It's more about the composition of that weight. You know, what's your lean muscle mass weight? What is your bone mass weight? What is your lean body fat percentage? What is that like? What does that look like? What's the combination? Right. That's more about it. I mean, Nathan Adrian wasn't, jet ski either.
What's
These
that?
guys aren't jet skis either when you look at them. It's a Nathan Adrian wasn't a
Oh,
jet
Nathan
ski.
Adria.
That guy was a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a monster, right? Those guys are not Tom Shields. He's not a jet ski. He's a aerobic monster, right? I mean, these guys are big dudes. Caleb, big dude, right? But they
Right.
definitely are very lean, very, very lean and strong. But comes a point where you can't really lose more mass without
Right.
reducing muscle mass. So it's kind of playing with
And
that.
I know this is very unscientific,
Yeah.
um, but it may influence your answer to that question. I'm a very dense person,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
extremely dense. Um, I part of what got me on this journey to adding weight, because I was 195 just, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, and I would get a mattress and I would crater the hell out of it within like 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You would think that a 500-pound person slept
Stay
on
in
that
there.
mattress.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the hell?
Mm.
And I've always been told, like, just in all my sports and everything else, pick up basketball, whatever it is, that I'm I weigh much more than I look like I weigh.
Mm-hmm.
And I carry my weight really well. So I'm
Yeah.
just very dense.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I don't based on what you're saying and that fact, I think if I lose the weight, maybe then I'm not able to pull that density like I have been able to.
Right. Maybe you need a little more body fat, a little more Chick-fil-A and Arby's in your life, get a little more buoyancy on the dents, right? You need a blue
Well, I've
70
wondered
is what
that.
you need. Blue
I've
70.
wondered that.
Yeah. I
Do
mean,
I need
there's some thought to that. Yeah, with having a little bit more. So that's why I think knowing what your body fat percentage is compared to those other percentages is really important, because if you're so high on this other side and
yeah,
so lean down here, that can actually almost work against you in some ways,
right.
right?
So how do I figure that out? Like, what do I do? What's the
Have you ever there's DEXA. I mean, when I was coaching at Purdue, we did DEXAs with I think the men and the women did it. The women definitely did. You can do a DEXA scan. A lot of gyms offer like bod pods, or chiropractors a lot of times have those type of tools. I'm sure, because are you in Austin or are you in Dallas, James? I can't remember.
Dallas?
You're in Dallas. Oh, there has to be somebody around there. There's plenty of gyms and things that would offer that ability. Even one of our gyms here locally has like unlimited amounts of body scans you can do.
Hmm.
Like, and
So
it's
it's
not
not like
like
a blood
it's just
test.
included. No. It's just body scans. Dex is a good one. There is a percentage margin of error they say to take into consideration on that, but bod
Right.
pods or stuff like that is definitely, you can do something like that.
Right.
They're not hard. Body fat percentage, lean muscle mass, I think it's like the Ironman or the triathlon scale. One of the, I can't remember what it is exactly, but it has all these functions that tells you that stuff on it. You can just
Okay.
step on the scale. Yeah.
Okay. Well, great.
So some
I
options.
Yeah, yeah. I could keep going, but I guess just to summarize, um, particularly in terms of like what to take. I know I need to change the kind of vitamins I take.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I if I'm gonna look at pre-workout, then it's through Clean Athletes with the ATP.
Mhm.
What was it called?
The BCAA peak ATP.
Yeah,
Mhm.
peak ATP,
That's what I would do.
BCAA.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I would experiment.
Okay. What else? What else do I need to take away from this?
So the B complex, something like Clean's B complex. If you're going to do a multi, go over to their tablet multi. Don't do their gummy multi. Their tablet has better ingredients in it for sure, with better additional recovery stuff. I think but omega-3 would definitely be something to consider taking. Clean has a great omega-3, and if you take 2 of those, it gives you the amount to properly recover and do the work it needs to do in your body. You don't have the extra information.
So I should take omegas.
Oh yeah. I don't know anyone in the pro world that doesn't take omegas for sure. And that's so important, especially with your risk of injury. So important to protect your body.
So omega-3 times 2.
Omega-3 times 2. Yep.
Yeah.
Omega-3 times 2. Yep. Super. Do 2 of those. Says 1 on the bottle, do 2 of them. That gets you the numbers that they're sort of recommending to get to.
Yeah. What else?
Definitely consider, probably around, not right now, but I would get a blood test at some point to check D, and I would definitely check that. Okay. When we talk about food, which I do think it's important to talk about those pieces on here, and we can schedule a time to go through that. Something we can talk about is there's a supplement that allows your body to help with the beetroot extract and powder, which is a capsule, and allows your body to help with oxygen production, and it allows you to definitely hold on to that muscular, or not muscular, but endurance and aerobic capacity better. It may be something to experiment with training for a bit. Again, then if it's used in training, you use it out of meat.
Now's the time to do it because I just started my new cycle. So what's it called? Where would I get beetroot extract?
I'll send you the link. Again, you can get a discount with those guys. It's called O2 Gold. O2 Gold, like the bar of gold. And that's a great supplement. It's sports safe. I definitely think that's one of the better things out there. Plus, you don't have to drink anything. It's just capsule. Just okay. Nice. No bad.
And flavor. So that, going back, is what I was trying to get at with citrulline.
Yeah, you may get better benefits out of the beetroot extract.
Right.
Yeah, because it takes your body conversion process on the citrulline, and you just may not be getting which exactly you need out of that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, Erica, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.